The next NXT special finally has a name. It'll be NXT TakeOver The End. What does the end mean? Triple H tweeted it out. We were all wondering, what is the pay-per-view, the live event special going to be called? Will it be Revenge? Will it be any other term that they used? Until Triple H finally tweeted out the term The End. In this video, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about NXT in general, things that are going on with the brand split as we relate it to that. As you guys can check out all my brand split-related videos in the playlist. You guys can see it on the corner of the video if you're watching on a computer, if you're watching on a desktop. If you're watching on a mobile phone, clicking the link in the description, you can go into the playlist and watch all the other videos related to the brand split. Now, when it comes to NXT used to be really special. Now, NXT is still great. I love watching NXT. There's a lot of stuff that happens, but a lot of the big homegrown storylines have kind of passed because of the fact that a lot of superstars have been called up. One of the best feuds in NXT was Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. The video packages were absolutely great. The prize fighter gimmick, that's where it came from. Then you had the Bayley-Sasha Banks overcoming. You had Bayley, who is absolutely phenomenal. I think she's going to do big things, especially she will be the John Cena of the women's division. She's so energetic. The crowd just loves her. And you had, before that, you had Sasha Banks overcoming Charlotte. You had other feuds in NXT that basically led to something very, very special. You had Nakamura's debut on the WrestleMania special, which was absolutely phenomenal. And there's a lot of things that have happened down in NXT that you enjoyed, that you watched. Now, when the name The End comes, there's been a lot of speculation, specifically because of the brand split, that does this mean it's the end of NXT? Or, like some people have speculated, is this just the end of the Samoa Joe Finn Balor feud? Because WWE keeps revolutionizing things. And when I say revolutionizing things, yes, a steel cage match between these two isn't revolutionary, but the fact that NXT has gone from usually just singles matches, then the first ladder match they had between Bo Dallas and Neville, then you had, coming into this, you had the long match between Bayley and Sasha Banks. So now you have a cage match, which is pretty intriguing. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it is a very intriguing concept between these guys. Now, if the end means the end of Finn Balor in NXT, what a way to go out, especially inside of the cage. He doesn't even have to get pinned or beat. This could set off the demon within Finn Balor to possibly finally come up and do the club, the Balor Club, whatever club they decide to name it. He's kind of teased it as of late down in NXT television. If you've been watching NXT television on the WWE network, that, he's kind of got to go to that place. The video package when he wasn't on NXT that week was absolutely phenomenal. And if this is the end of Finn Balor down in NXT, which I'm fine with, I would love to see him up on the main roster. I want to see the club. I keep calling it the club when it's the Bullet Club, The fact that the main roster keeps referencing it, like, you didn't even start the club. It is what it is. Finn Balor started the Bullet Club over in New Japan. It was his club. And they keep referencing it. Now, for Finn Balor's character, this is where the slow burn happens. Now, Samoa Joe is Samoa Joe, right? You know who he is. But Finn goes between the demon character, which should be used on pay-per-views and big events, and his normal character that, is the happy-go-lucky guy. And then you see shades of this, deep down villainous demon guy that when he can go to that place. So when I say go to that place, you probably immediately jump to Randy Orton and Michael Cole going, the Viper's going to that place. You know what I mean? But Finn, especially with character development, you have a lot of guys that are just, great wrestlers. Finn is one of them. Absolutely phenomenal wrestler, great to watch. But the fact that he could go from that, happy-go-lucky guy and then really just step it up when he puts that face paint on, in my mind, is character development. That's something that you want on television, that you want to see. If he comes out and you see him in normal gear, and then the next week he's got the face paint on and he can overcome that loss. Now, when you think about it, when you have a superstar that goes out there and loses, a lot of people, usually jump to the terms buried or, doing something. But then if Finn the next week jumps to face paint and gets his loss back, and you can explain, oh, I guess you ticked him off, or, something of that nature, or leading up to the pay-per-view, he loses. Say he has a feud with Samoa Joe or somebody else on the main roster. And, he's losing, he's getting taken advantage of if they don't do something like the Baylor Club. And then it come to pay-per-view, though, this is where the Demon debuts. This is where the Demon comes out. This is where everything matters. It's kind of like a guy that constantly loses matches like Dolph Ziggler, but then when he finally gets the title, he's able to win. Or Randy Orton loses a bunch of matches, but when he finally gets the title, he finds a way to win. And that's something that I think Finn Balor could do that would really bring some energy to the show. But the question still remains, what does the end mean? Is the end going towards the end of NXT? Is it the end of the feud? Is it the end of the era? Is the brand split going to end up having NXT on SmackDown, which I don't want. I don't want NXT to necessarily go away, but NXT on, like, say, USA Network. Could you imagine if USA Network announces that NXT is going to main television programming? Could that be the end? Could it be the end of NXT on the WWE Network? Could they be headed every single week, 1 hour on the USA, on the Sci-Fi, and then USA just becomes exclusively WWE content? That could definitely be an option. When you think about the things that are happening in the company, NXT is very popular. I think the one thing that does hurt it a little bit is the fact that it's taped, but it's not too bad. It hasn't really been a problem in the 2 or 3 years they've been doing the show now that has really stood out. They don't necessarily have to go live. They don't have to, I say spoilers wrecks a show like TNA because they usually tape 2 or 3 months out versus NXT, may tape a month out roughly, and then they kind of change things up a little bit. And it's still, in my mind, it hurts a little bit. Live television programming is where it's at. Regardless if the big viewing audience isn't really keen to looking at spoilers or looking at, stuff like that, live television is something that has that mystique, and that's why advertisers pay big bucks. That's why NXT, is so special in the fact that it's still awesome. It's great wrestling, but when you have shows like, not shows, but sports, like, football, you're not necessarily going to watch a sport. I mean, there's some people that do on DVR, but you want to watch it live. You want to know what happens live. And with SmackDown going live, it kind of signals that live programming is the king in this era. And you want the stuff that isn't necessarily spoiler related. So could this be the end of them constantly taping out shows? Could they be going live from Full Sail University? There really is a lot of unanswered questions, and this is what I constantly keep talking about that WWE needs to do. They drop a name like The End, and then the internet blows up, and people are wondering, there are stories everywhere. The IB Times, What Culture, all these big news sites are now questioning, what does The End mean? Where are we going from here? What happens? And that's something you don't have on WWE very often. There's a lot of, you don't necessarily know where things are going. Just like WWE, if you follow them on Twitter right now, is putting out these just cryptic tweets about this like, it looks like a bomb shelter type thing, a door, and then it's a hatch, and then they're cracking it open, and it looks like a fedora from Bray Wyatt or something like that. So the unpredictability of not knowing what's going to happen is huge. So I would love to get your guys' thoughts and discussion on this before it actually happens. Not necessarily to get your hopes up, but there is a lot of things that could happen. Like we've talked about, it could be the end of the feud, it could be the end of the show, it could be the end of tape programming. There's a lot of things that could happen, and I'm super excited for it, man. I think NXT, especially now with the brand split, they're going to get rated from talent. And WWE needs to step up fast, because if Finn Balor leaves NXT, I'm not saying that there kind of is a huge hole if Finn is gone from NXT, because Finn doesn't. One of my favorite things was Shinsuke Nakamura. If you guys follow Inguido on Twitter, he's a reporter that covers Japanese wrestling and whatnot, and he translates. He's a multilingual translator. And he's talking about Nakamura that, oh, man, he doesn't like tag teaming. He likes tag teaming with Finn Balor, but his entrance takes too long. And I've talked about that on main television. You're not going to be able to do his demon entrance, so that's why it needs to come out. So if this is the end of Finn Balor in NXT and you want to see him call up to the main roster, do you want to see them just end NXT? Do you want NXT to go on USA? Let me know in the comment section below what you think the end means. And what is WWE doing here, man? I'm honestly, genuinely curious, and I can't wait for the pay-per-view and the showdown between Samoa Joe, because something like this could happen, and that could bring out the character development inside of Finn Balor. Until next time, it's your boy Tubby Emu.